Struggle veteran Ahmed Kathrada is being laid to rest at the West Park Cemetery in Johannesburg. Struggle veteran received an official funeral led by Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Several ANC veterans, stalwarts, ministers and opposition leaders attended the funeral service. Political leaders lamented the loss of the stalwart, saying that his contribution to a non-racial South Africa cannot be underestimated. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe also praised Kathrada's determination not to conform to the apartheid norms. Well, South Africa and the world woke up to the sad news of the passing of Ahmed Kathrada on Monday morning. He passed away due to post-operative complications after a brain tumor surgery. Condolences continue to stream in on social media, and people continue to send their condolences to the family and friends of the struggle stalwart Ahmed Kathrada. He is being laid to rest today at the West Park Cemetery in Johannesburg. These are some of those visuals coming to us from the cemetery. Condolences continue to pour in. But let's get an update from on the ground. For that, we are joined by ANN7 reporter Lemogang Foke, who joins us live. Good afternoon to you, Lemogang. Just talk us through the proceedings so far that started this morning into this afternoon. What exactly is taking place on the ground?
Yes, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you very much, yes, Abigail. Right now, I can tell you what is happening is currently the body is being laid right now, and what we've seen from this morning, a lot of ministers are coming in and to pay their last and final respect to the late Ahmed Kathrada. Very interesting funeral at that, where we saw the Alliance as well coming in and speaking on behalf of the Alliance itself. But I just want to introduce my guest right now just to get more reactions on this. I have with me the Minister of Science and Technology, Minister Naledi Pandor. Minister, thank you so much for joining us. A very interesting afternoon here today. Just what are some of your thoughts on the program here today?
Well, I thought the program was very well done. I suspect Uncle Kathy would have said it was a bit too long. He would have said shorter speeches. But it was a wonderful tribute to a wonderful person.
And what are some of the things that you will remember, Minister, about the late, great Ahmed Kathrada?
Well, there's so many things. We served together in Parliament. He was the parliamentary councillor to President Mandela. I was a whip of the African National Congress at the time, and I remember whenever we asked him to participate in debates in Parliament, he wouldn't say no to us as junior young people. And so he just, for me, epitomizes what I think a South African should be. A person committed to what we're trying to achieve as a nation, but not merely committed to it, actively pursuing it in the way he lives his life. A lot of us talk ideals, but few of us live them, and he did.
Any final words for the family during this time of difficulty?
I'd like Comrade Barbara Hogan to know that we are with her, and we are deeply, deeply thankful for the love and support that she gave to Comrade Kathy. I know that he was her darling, and she was his. And to the family, I would want to say they're going to miss him, they're going to mourn, but remember the gigantic contribution that he has made to our country through the struggle and in the period of freedom. And in particular, pay attention to young people, because they were part of his first love.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, Minister. I will be talking right now to ANN7 resident analyst Fiso Mahlangus. Fiso, what were your thoughts on the program? It seemed as if there was a bit of, factionalism agenda as well, a little bit of a touch to it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Lemo, I really felt that there was a factionalist agenda running today. The program was intended to be very, very short. But we have seen with Mr. Kgalema Motlante's speech, and he just came out and read part of the open letter that Ahmed Kathrada had written to President Jacob Zuma asking him to step down. And so the speaker, who was Mr. Mutante, read a prefix of that letter, and he had a standing ovation. You will also remember that some ministers who are considered part of the Zuma brigade or of the Zuma camp did not attend. But the MC was Mr. Derek Hanekom, who also had asked within the NEC meeting for President Zuma to step down. Also alongside Mr. Hanekom was also Mr. Aaron Motsoaledi, the Minister of Health, who also supported that notion for President Zuma to step down. And so it seemed like a collective today of an anti-Zuma brigade. And I felt this ceremony should not have been used to fight a factionalist battle, but it should have been a ceremony in remembrance of a stalwart or an African leader. But it really was a decisive move to pin the tail and to assault the character of the president. And the last and final speaker put the nail in it by heightening and suggesting that Mr. Pravin Gordhan is the greatest treasurer or minister of finance South Africa has ever had, and that if he stays or as he goes, he remains credible. And they asked him to stand up, and he also got a standing ovation. So it was more about people that are against President Zuma or represent a different faction or ideology, and a bit less about Mr. Ahmed Kathrada, which I think was unfortunate. But the hero has been laid to rest in a sunny Joburg afternoon.
Let's talk about some of the speeches from the Alliance representatives itself. Do you feel that they represented what they stand for when they say unity in action? Do you feel that it was something that was reflected throughout today?
Well, the strange element also is that Mr. Blade Nzimande had a lot to say, and he spoke in a voice that he did not speak with at January 8. I don't know if at January 8 he was speaking because it was an ANC rally, but particularly this afternoon, Mr. Nzimande had a lot of shade to throw on President Jacob Zuma and the current ANC leadership, and that possibly should have not been done. I wrote my thesis on communism, and I actually studied a lot of the work that Mr. Nzimande had done. He also, threw some shade on stage and said he thought this was not January 8, where January 8 he was only given 2 minutes to speak, but here he thought he had a longer term to speak, and he wanted to say what was in his heart. So he was driving a nut home, and I think it's a campaign that Zuma must fall, and people took activity in this proceeding. They took the opportunity, because when else would they get such an opportunity? And it's televised the country and possibly the worldwide, and a lot of factionalist move and a lot of factionalist agenda has been driven here. And I think for me, I don't want it to take away from the fact that Ahmed Kathrada was an incredible leader. He does represent, in a sense, like Mr. Nelson Mandela, but he is not Nelson Mandela. All of us are unique in our particular ways, but he was a great leader, and South Africa will miss the legend that is today. But I felt, and I really felt, as that open letter was being read out today, if your comrade and you differ, you don't write him a letter, you don't email him and send out the details to members of the press in an open letter. You go and meet with him, and you consult the way comrades should. I think that's what I expected.
And what kind of repercussions are we looking at, Sfiso, given that, the ANC elective conference is around the corner? What could possibly come from this?
Well, it's going to come because the ANC has got many facts and factions of itself. And every 5 years you see a different faction kind of represent itself. What one can expect is that at the elective conference, a new breed is going to come up, and it's going to be the new leadership of the ANC. You do know that in South Africa, how President Thabo Mbeki left office so unceremoniously. So he still leads a big camp and a big faction of people who were unsatisfied with his departure. And of course, those people would like to have a rerun. And so you've also seen today the likes of Mr. Matthew Phosa here. And so that's an old faction. But I think with every new administration, there's a new faction. But South Africans should not assume or aspire to say that the best president is the one that just left or the one that's coming in. We shouldn't approach politics in that way.
Thank you very much. That was AN7 resident analyst Sifiso Mafangu. Abigail, we will be bringing you more updates as it progresses. But for now, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Lemogang. Let's leave it there for now. AN7 reporter Lemogang Forke coming to us from the funeral proceedings of the late Ahmed Kathrada. It is taking place in Johannesburg. These are live visuals that we are seeing from the funeral as the legendary and iconic Ahmed Kathrada is being laid to rest. South Africa and the world heard of his passing early this week. He had passed on due to post-operative complications, as it's been put to the media, lung infection, with regards to an operation he had in order to remove a brain tumor. The world shocked by the passing, even though he was admitted to hospital earlier this month. We heard of his passing at the beginning of this week. Messages of condolences continue to pour in from stalwarts and political figures to the everyday South Africans on the streets. Social media and Twitter has been a flood with social media as well. But stay tuned to AN7. We are going to keep you up to date with the latest details and developments here.